Certainly, as with many people, my family was an important influence in my early years and continues to be so even today. There are two major values that were important in my household, both of which I think touch CDI. Certainly the value of education. My mother said to me, stay in school for as long as you possibly can. I don't think she imagined I'd stay in school until I was 30, but nevertheless, that was a critical value. So she thought of education as this wonderful gift that could be transformative in one's life, and certainly that was one of the important values that I learned at home. A second value that I learned at home was the value of financial literacy, and I learned that from my father. And so those two trends, those two influences from my family were central to who I was as a young person and who I am today. In terms of mentors, I had a large number of them. I was very, very fortunate. There was a woman named Elizabeth Allison who was an assistant professor, an associate professor at Harvard, and a tutor in one of the houses. And she was one of the first people to suggest that maybe I should think about getting both this law degree and a PhD in economics. Then I had another mentor who actually was also my professor, a fellow named Richard Caves. And so one of the things that he taught me by modeling was that one can still be, a nice guy and also do well in academia. And so he was a mentor both in the way he interacted with me, but also the way he modeled how one can be professionally quite successful, but also still show a certain degree of empathy. And I think that's incredibly important. So I was very, very lucky to have a number of folks, some teachers and some friends, all of whom sort of helped me figure out a path and coached me along the way. So my insights for anyone who's going to be mentoring a young person, a CDI type person, a first generation college student and college graduate, is to meet them where they are and then bring them along the journey. And I think that's a very important trait in a mentor, as you have to start with wherever the protege, the mentee is, and then figure out the path forward with them, not for them. Part of what a mentor does is help you to imagine what your future might be. I've heard a phrase used here at my company, if you can see it, you can be it. So an important part of a mentor, particularly for an individual who may look different from others, is to figure out there's value in all of that, and yes, you can imagine yourself being the next person up the ladder or the CEO of the company. One doesn't start with the question, will you mentor me? Or the statement, I want to be your mentor. What you start with is, here's a person I'm working with, here's a person I've befriended, here's a person I've come to know. We have a relationship, and then it just keeps deepening and deepening from sort of friendship and casual interaction to maybe more mindfully thinking about how you can help someone solve a problem. And that can be by unlocking the answer that they have in themselves. That can be by maybe guiding and teaching more explicitly. That could simply be by bringing them into a circle that they wouldn't otherwise be part of. So there are many different dimensions of mentorship, but it all starts with a relationship, and a relationship by definition has to have some mutuality about it. And so a good mentor relationship is like any other human relationship. It evolves over time, and there are moments when the person who was the protege becomes the teacher, so to speak, and vice versa. And from my standpoint, that's one of the things that's most rewarding, because I want to be a continuous learner if I'm willing to be patient and learn from them, as maybe at some points they've learned a little bit from me. No one's perfect. So we have in my company developed a phrase, I'm not different from you, I'm different like you. So if you recognize that, yes, you are different in some ways, but somebody else is different as well. And they're not perfect. So, you're two imperfect individuals, two people who have differences, and just, see that person as another human being. And that's really important. The second thing I would really encourage the young scholars to recognize, and this is true everywhere, and I say this to my own kids, most faculty, most teachers, most of the people you're going to meet in school are there because they want to interact with young people and bring them along. And the final point I'd always make to a CDI scholar, and I put myself in that position, if you're in a school or if you're selected to a college, you were admitted. That means they thought you could do the work and could succeed. And so they have already made a choice and have assessed you as being a person who belongs on that campus, belongs in that classroom, and you should act as though you belong there. You might be different in some way. You might not have as much money. You might have a slight accent. You might wear, a different, outfit. You might prefer to eat one thing or another, but you still have been selected to belong in that environment, and you owe it to those folks who selected you to step up and really be part of that community. And so, belong, belong, belong. And a good workplace is the same. I've never known a boss, a manager, a teacher who wanted someone to fail. And don't hold back. So there's a certain kind of bravery that's called for, but it should come from a place of confidence that somebody assessed you as being worthy of being in that location.